Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. My name is MiAh the King, and I was gonna tell a joke about water, but it was too tasteless. Now then, today we're taking a look at a game newly released on Steam just a couple weeks ago called Palworld. I know, right? What took me so long? Well, it's not that I was obsessed with it, more like I just now got the money to buy it. I told you I was poor. Anyway, I've been seeing a lot of stuff about this game out there on the internet lately, and decided I wanted to put in my 2 cents. Developed and published by Pocket Pair, released in early access, and selling for $30. So, this game has been described several different ways, Pokemon with guns being the one I've heard the most, but I've also heard it's the Japanese Ark. So, how true are those claims? Well, let's find out. Now, as always, let's go into the good, followed by the bad, and then my final thoughts, alright? So up first is the positives, and I gotta say, the game didn't look as good as it is when I was looking at it in all the media I saw. But when I actually got into it, I saw that this game is just, it's beautiful. Like, I couldn't stop looking at all the pretty colors and the amazing lighting, along with its shadow physics, fire physics, color contrast, and surprisingly enough, its attention to detail. So the first positive is the look of the game. It looks freaking great. It's the perfect blend and art style needed to give this game a nice little charm to its already charming idea. Speaking of, the next positive. It's the idea of this game. Obviously, no one has thought of this yet because they haven't done it yet. It's not exactly Pokemon with guns. While the creatures may be similar to Pokemon in some ways, and while you might see a lot of people walking around with guns, that's not really the whole situation. The majority of them, the animals that is, they're more similar to, well, animals. You know, there's a sheep, that's a chicken, that's a squirrel, and that's a fox. These animals aren't trademarked, so therefore you can make any adjustment to them and give them a different name without ripping anybody off. But I can still understand why people are making the comparison. And as for guns, I've been playing for hours now and I haven't gotten a single gun yet. So it's more like it's a typical survival game, like where you got to build up a club and then a bow and arrow and then a spear and then iron versions of these things and work your way up to guns. So it's not just Pokemon with guns. And it's not Pokemon at all. Anyway, the pals aren't just monsters, they're animals. They can attack and eat you just like you can attack and eat them. But once you domesticate them, they become workers on farms, miners, lumberjacks, warriors, and I could go on. The idea of having this massive world with these exotic creatures that you can fight, tame, and use for various objectives that don't even involve fighting is just really interesting and engaging. The next positive I want to talk about is the gameplay. I kept thinking to myself this game has to be lacking somewhere, so I tested out a lot. Granted, I didn't have a lot of time to play, and with a game like this, it's really hard to do a deep review, which is why this isn't a deep review. But I saw the PAL skills, the PAL equipment, the PAL combat. I died. I checked if there was fall damage, which there is. I tested the PAL on PAL combat. I tested the capturing aspect. I tested the stability, and I tested the building mechanic as well as the controls. Everything worked surprisingly well. Which is going to lead into my next point, but I'll get into that in a moment. For the gameplay, the gist of it is that you are a shipwreck survivor on an island of pals. Now survive and try to unravel and understand the mystery of the towers using pals to help you out. You can build a base and eventually multiple bases. You can set up your pals to defend your home, to harvest resources, cook food, craft objects, and the list goes on. It even has a pretty decent character customizer at the beginning of the game, so you can create as close to what you want to look like as the game allows. And one of the most unusual things the game also allows you to do, you can even capture other humans. I think that's hilarious. The combat is engaging and interesting enough, as is the capture mechanic, and the world is, massive to explore, with so much that it would take me weeks to explore it all. All the buttons work as you'd want them to, so the controls are doing very well. The user interface is easy to understand and navigate, and overall, the entire time I was playing, I didn't notice a single negative thing about it. Actually, that's not true, but I'll go into that later. The next positive was the stability. Considering this is an early access game and considering I was forced to play it alone, my wife was unable to join me this time, I didn't notice a single issue with the game's stability. Like, it never froze, never crashed, never glitched, and never even dropped frames. For an early access game, I was very surprised with how smoothly it was playing and with its lack of game breaking or game flow disturbing bugs. So, that's all the positives I have for you. Next up, we're going to go into the negatives, but before that, I humbly ask all you wonderful viewers out there to support the growth of my channel. It's not hard, and it doesn't cost you anything. Liking, subscribing, and commenting help my channel, true. However, what really helps is sharing my content online and help get me more publicity. YouTube doesn't like to advertise small channels like mine, so I require the help of the community to help me get more noticed. So please consider helping me out today. Thank you. Now then, on to the negatives, and the first one I got is the music. Keep in mind, most of these negatives are due to the game being unfinished, so think of them more as minor nitpicks. Now, don't get me wrong, when the music itself actually plays, it's kinda nice to listen to, and it fits the theme. But as far as I can tell, the music only exists in the title screen. It's dead out here. There's no music, and hardly any ambiance. It makes running around doing your chores even more boring than they already were. It's really depressing when you open the game to music. and then you go back to this. It's clearly missing something as you're playing, and it's very obviously that it's the music and the ambiance. Now, the ambiance does come and go, and the remaining sound effects do sound decent enough. There's no voice acting, by the way. But when the ambiance and music are both gone, it's just dead, and it just makes the whole thing feel less interesting, less entertaining, and more boring. The next negative I have is that I guess it's just some things just aren't really worth it, which shows a lack of purpose, maybe even dedication. For instance, the gold that you can collect is pretty much pointless. I haven't needed it once and never really felt a desire to desperately get more for any particular reason, which means I'm just collecting it over and over again from these random chests I find, but I don't have a reason to use it. Building a house for yourself is interesting, but it doesn't do anything except give you a place to sleep, which kind of sucks the fun out of it. The game wants you to collect like 30 pals as part of a quest/tutorial thing, but I doubt my pal box can even hold that many. The game wants you to collect 10 of the same pal to buff it up, by the way, so along with the previous quest, I guess just get used to throwing away pals that you've collected. And even with getting my crafting speed up higher, it still takes forever. Here, I'm going to put a clip of me crafting just 40 arrows. Now, you're going to be watching this for as long as it takes me to finish it, and could be for the rest of this video. It's ridiculous how slow you craft things. So I guess this negative is definitely more about how the game just isn't finished and needs some tweaking. Give us more bonuses for having a home. Make the crafting faster, or at least a toggle button so I don't gotta hold the activate button. Maybe give us more space for more pals, and make gold more important. Could this be because the game isn't finished, or is it lack of detail and development? I really don't know, and it doesn't look good. So that's all the really big things that I gotta mention negatively about the game. Now, I could go on and on and on about where I think it needs improvement because it's not finished yet, but this isn't that deep a dive a look into the game, and it's just not finished yet. I can only give you my opinion as of this moment, and honestly, I think this game is something very special. It's got some legitimate potential here. I only played a couple of hours and I was hooked. I love survival games, I love the art style, I love the idea, and the gameplay was fun enough that I couldn't get enough while I was playing. I wanted more and more and more. I want to sink more time into this. I want to really get into it, and that is a great feeling for a new game. Would I recommend this game? Well, I mean, okay, so here's the thing. Only if you got someone to play with, in my personal opinion. I feel like it would be a lot more fun if you're playing with somebody, and if you're just really into survival games. Those two reasons. Then if those are you, then yes, you should definitely play this game, definitely support the developers, and you'll have a blast playing it. I know it's a bit pricey, but considering everything that's included here, it's definitely worth the money. If not for the graphics and the idea, but for the replayability and length of time you're going to be playing and the different things you can try out and do. I think it's a very solid investment, and yes, I would encourage you, even if you are just a little bit interested, to give the game a shot. I mean, I myself was a bit hesitant at first, but after playing it, I gotta say, stop hesitating and just get into it, okay? You'll find out that it's a lot better than you thought it was. Alright? Okay, so that's all the time I got for this video, everybody. Thanks so much for watching, with a special thanks to those who stayed till the end. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.